It is Wednesday, the 10th of January 2017. I'm still Robin Yellow, and this is Techtasm episode 42, Snap the Windows Dragon. And with me again, because nobody else loves CES as much, is James Woodall.
Hello, still Robin Yellow. How are you?
Oh, have you recovered from last week, James?
Yes, I have. It's all good in the hood. Very exciting CES. Brilliant. I have to say, I don't regret that I didn't go. Although, actually, I spoke to a friend today who did, and maybe I do regret. I don't know. I'll decide.
Everybody getting a cold. Everybody walking for miles and miles.
Yep.
Breathing artificially dried air. For a week. Not good for your health. Well, James, we have a bumper show this week. We're going to be taking a look at the new Snapdragon 835 wireless chargers built into the road, and VR is here to stay. We'll be judging these stories and some others to tell you if they are a Techtasm, which by our definition is a blend of tech for technology, and Tasm for phantasm, something existing only in a person's mind. So without further post-CES drivel, let's get on with the show. GeekWire reported that Qualcomm are launching their new Windows 10 friendly Snapdragon 835 processor. Now, according to Keith Cressin, Qualcomm's Senior Vice President for Product Management, and when he announced the Snapdragon 835 during a media briefing last week, that's not Windows with an asterisk. Now, this was a reference to the previous and largely unsuccessful efforts by Microsoft and its partners to offer a stripped-down version of Windows 8 for Snapdragon and other ARM processors. Do you remember the what was it called? The Surface?
It was called RT. Windows RT. Yeah, in fact, I did buy a Surface RT, and it was a really weird device. You had the Windows Metro experience where all the apps were kind of very nice and very modern, etc. And then you had the ability to switch into the traditional Windows desktop, and the only purpose of that was to run Microsoft Office. There were no other applications available in Windows desktop mode.
Yes, and not likely to be, yeah. Well, Microsoft are going to use emulation technology to allow Windows 10 on this new processor to run x86 Win32 apps, such as Adobe Photoshop, Microsoft Office, and anything else you can think of. Now, Qualcomm have said that the ARM experience is going to provide a better battery life, 20% faster graphics. We'll be able to support virtual and augmented reality experiences, 3D audio, upgraded security, biometrics integration. The list goes on and on. Good idea, James?
Yeah, well, I've got to ask, and maybe the article doesn't make clear, is Windows going to run in ARM and some apps are going to run in Win32? Or is the whole of Windows running in Win32?
Under emulation. Seems unlikely. The emulation must be there to provide backward compatibility.
Just for the app. So, okay, because Microsoft have had the OS compiled on ARM for years now, right? I mean, it runs on the smartphones.
Yes.
So, okay, hey, if that's what they've done, that's a good idea. I mean, they do the same thing with, maybe not to the same extent, but Windows 64 runs Win32 apps in emulation, so yes, the technology has been there for a long time, so hey, why not?
Well, of course, the problem that all these Windows tablets, including the Surface, have is that they're running on Intel chips, and Intel chips are fantastic, they've got plenty of power, but they're not going to last a full working day without being charged, whatever it tells you in the brochure. And this Qualcomm Snapdragon 835 is the first 10 nanometer mobile processor. Now, 10 nanometer is incredibly small, James. The smaller the number of nanometers, the more power efficient the chip is. And ARM has always been good by design at squeezing every last cycle out of every bit of power in the battery. And of course, the expectation here is that a laptop or tablet class device with this processor and the compatibility will tick all the boxes of all day without a battery, plus runs all your favorite apps.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm looking forward now at the equivalent Intel chip, and in terms of nanometer cores,
I think they're down to 14, aren't they? Is their smallest?
Yeah, I don't think they're on. Yeah, they've got Broadwell chips on 14 that have just come out. So,
well, Intel's attempt to get into this market properly was the Atom range of processors, and they're virtually defunct now, I think, aren't they, as a brand?
I've seen them around for, but I mean that's because the thing that ARM do really well is they don't actually manufacture their own CPUs. You know, they allow other companies. So if you're not Intel and you want to build a CPU, you've got, what choices have you got? You've got Motorola with the PowerPC, so IBM architecture there, and then you've got actually that's it, and then you've got ARM. So, you know, you've got great companies like NVIDIA, Qualcomm, Freescale, Samsung, all building these great ARM chips. Intel, you know, they're just going to, well, yeah.
Well, I suppose that's the question. Is it over for Intel? Without labouring this, of course, I mean, our Techtasm challenge is normally about the subject of the article, which is the Qualcomm Snapdragon processor. Is it a Techtasm? So do you think they're going to be able to deliver all of those promises that I just made on their behalf, James, about all-day battery life and complete compatibility with everything?
I don't know. I mean, you don't know how power hungry emulation is going to be. Emulation isn't cheap. So I think it's like, is it several clock cycles per clock cycle? You know, there's a ratio, isn't there? Because you got to do some kind of translation. So
do you think there'll be anything actually in the chip itself which will aid the emulation process?
I don't know, because generally what's happened in the past is companies like Qualcomm. So when ARM release a reference design, it's got all the bells and whistles on it, and generally what Qualcomm do and Samsung is they take bits out of it. So I don't know how much experience they've got of adding their own secret sauce back in. So I guess we'll see. But I mean, it's I don't know. It's expensive to do that, isn't it?
It's a wait and see jobby.
Yeah, and to be fair, we may never know, right? Okay. Look, okay, it might be possible that they've got some things enabled which can make the emulation process faster, but let's not kid ourselves, emulation is still slow and costly. So I'm guessing if you're running Adobe Photoshop on your smartphone, it's not really going to last too long. But then who needs that?
But I think they're talking about laptop or tablet class devices, aren't they, for this chip as well? I mean, you know, they're not talking about Windows 10 mobile. They're talking about a full version of Microsoft Windows, which can run, you know, desktop apps.
Okay. So what we're saying is an ARM chip going into a laptop?
But I think so, yes. He said he's citing... Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point, actually. Yes, because Chromebooks, of course, come in two flavors. The more popular Intel flavor, but they also are available with the MediaTek ARM chip as well. And I've got an ARM-based Chromebook on my desk. In fact, can't tell the difference. Just runs the same.
Interestingly enough, the Windows 10 modern apps, because they're not allowed to call them Metro anymore, do run natively in ARM anyway. So this is basically some kind of backwards compatibility feature.
Yes, maybe it's got to the point now where the number of actual old, you know, Win32 apps that need to be run as a general on average percentage of what somebody needs to do every day is so small that, you know, they may be banking on the fact that, you know, 50, 75, 80% of what a person does doesn't require the emulation. Therefore, you get the benefits of using new modern architectures together with the, you know, all the battery life and faster graphics that come wrapped up in this chip anyway.
You know, I'm not sure I agree with you there, because I'm thinking about what I've done today at work, and I know I'm a programmer, but I don't use any apps in my daily life that are modern apps. They're all Win32 apps. I don't get anything from the store. But anything from the store is a modern app.
Yeah, but so how much of your time do you actually spend in a browser?
Loads. But my browser is Chrome, and that's a Win32 app.
Okay, but that Chrome could be written natively for the ARM architecture, and it has been, because, like I said, I've got Chromebooks which have Chrome for ARM architecture. So Chrome is written will work on both. I
don't want to pop the bubble, and the information I'm about to give you is a few years old, but Microsoft don't have an ARM compiler for Win32 apps. If you want to write for ARM, you have to make a modern app, which has its own windowing system and whatever else.
Ah.
That was how it was back in Windows 8. Maybe they've changed it for Windows 10, but if you wanted to build an ARM app, you had to do it in the modern environment, thus download from the store, all of that kind of stuff. So maybe they've changed it. Maybe they've changed it because that was the debate back with Windows RT, that Firefox and Chrome couldn't be on Windows RT because the compilers weren't available for it.
Got it.
But hey, I might be completely wrong. Microsoft is not the closed company it was 2 or 3 years ago. So hey, maybe it's completely changed. Who knows? Who knows? Well, I think we should move on. Lucy Wang in Habitat, I don't think we've covered from this website before, has been talking about, as a follow-on from a story we did last week with Solar Roads, an Israeli startup called Electrode is
good name.
Yeah, exactly. Is unveiling a technology that allows you to have wireless charging in the road. That's nothing new. What they are demonstrating, though, is they claim that they can retrofit 1 kilometer of road every day, which is actually quite impressive. So they can take an existing road and every day convert another kilometer of it. And basically what they've got is a strip, an inductive charging strip that runs along the road that the bus or whatever it is drives over and just naturally charges as it's driving along. I think this is pretty awesome. What do you think?
Well, the sensors in the bus, from the diagrams on the website, there seems to be quite a big pickup location. I would say it looks like maybe, 3 or 4 meters length of pickup in inducers or magnetic coils or however it works, which are kind of, providing a strong signal down to the coils in the ground. So that looks pretty good, provided the bus, of course, stays on the center line. I don't know how well it would do if it kind of meandered over a little bit off the center, but if it worked, presumably, are there batteries on board the buses, James?
Well, they would have to be. If there wasn't, then they'd have to tether the bus to the road, right?
Yes, that's right. So the charging must be exceeding the load requirement of the bus so that it can push some charge into the battery cache. And give it the ability to perhaps run on areas where the charging isn't there. Does it say anything about the amount of power it can push in?
I don't think it does, no. This article is pretty light on detail. It mainly talks about how you actually install it. But it does say that the battery costs $300,000 and weighs 5 tons.
Okay.
But if... the technology is cost-saving compared to diesels, I'm guessing because electricity is better than, diesel.
Well, we had seen from Qualcomm their Halo system, which did a similar thing, and I think another one from Keist was also doing it. And this is known technology. It's not induction. Is it magnetic induction? Goodness me, I can't remember the name of it, but it is, you can direct it. It works over a distance. It doesn't have to be right next to, it doesn't have to be right, the coils don't have to touch, so it doesn't have to drag something along the surface of the road. It can be, half a meter away from the induction coil. So the technology is proven. We know that works. The real breakthrough, as you said, is the ability to actually convert road at speed. What was it, 1 kilometer a day?
1 kilometer a day, yeah.
So what is that? Is that like a single machine that kind of digs up the trench, lays the coil, and re-tarmacs?
It doesn't look like a single machine, but basically what they're able to do is they need to dig a trench 8 centimeters deep, and they've got basically a machine that just drives over and drills out this trench. A second vehicle then installs the charging strip and then fills the trench back up.
Brilliant.
So, it sounds like, and to be fair, that's going to be the bit that everyone questions, right? How can you possibly do this efficiently and, whatever else. But anyway, Techtasm or not Techtasm?
No, I don't think it is. That while I think it's got potential to be a Techtasm, because not because the technology doesn't work, but because either the venture capital funding or the money, or they'll find problems with the unions, or digging up the road could be complicated because there are already things buried in it. Or I think, I was looking at trolley buses recently, as you wander through Wikipedia, as you do, and I was looking on the history of trolley buses. Now, trolley buses were electric buses, double-decker electric buses, recognizable, with a sort of overhead cables, where the bus would drive along the road and could kind of maneuver like a regular bus through and round traffic. And all the time it would remain connected to two overhead high-tension cables, providing the power for the bus. Now, there are a couple of problems with this. One, you've got ugly wires everywhere. And two, of course, if the bus becomes disconnected, it just stops. Now, this seems to solve both of those problems, because one, you've got room inside the bus for a limited battery backup to give it a few miles, so it can actually go off grid, without having to carry so many batteries for it to do a run. And two, it allows the bus, which is a very expensive asset, to continue working throughout the day. Now, the problem with current buses is they can, like the electric buses in London, they can run for a few hours, then they have to go back and be charged. So actually they're out of service. Really, with an expensive piece of equipment like a bus, you want to keep it in service 24 hours a day if possible.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it's nice to see people experimenting with this kind of thing, though, and this might not be the right answer, but we're moving towards it.
Indeed. I don't think that one's a Techtasm. Sounds like you don't either. So good luck to them. That's what I say. Now back to CES. Gizmodo reported through Michael Nunes of Intel's Project Alloy. Now, Intel have showed off a developer kit to selected media. Now, this is an untethered device. It's like a lot of the VR headsets, but it doesn't contain any wires, that sits on your head. It's not a finished product, so it's still a reference design, but they were showing it off to people. And what he basically said, to boil down his very well-written article here, he said that apart from the controller, which is a bit flimsy, it was a very good experience, and they managed to eliminate the wires from the back of the headset, and this was a massive deal. I mean, have you used one of these VR rigs, James?
I have, but a wired one. I use the Vive.
Yes, which is a very good experience, isn't it? Very rock solid.
Yes. Yes. I'm trying to think. The Hololens, that's not VR. That's AR. So
that's what that is. But the elimination of the wire, of course, is the critical thing here. That obviously Intel is going for, and of course this industry was always going in this direction. In fact, VentureBeat reported on Pico Technology revealing an untethered virtual reality headset at CES. And they obviously, like a lot of people, expect this to be the wave of the future. Now, they're looking to launch in 2017. Again, looks like a VR helmet, but obviously it's battery powered. This one uses, the Pico uses a Snapdragon 820 rather than the 835, interestingly enough. So it's using an older chip. But, these low power chips developed for the mobile phone world are perfect for VR. And Intel, apparently, I saw a video of some of the things that they were showing in Project Alloy, and it was incredible. They were photorealistic VR experiences. The kind of thing where you look on YouTube, 4K YouTube, that's done in a spherical, and you really can see it's pixelated. Well, they had solved this problem with gigantic amounts of data, and I think he was saying something like a gig of data per frame went into this model, and the headset was processing it in real time. So, wow. Obviously it's a question of data throughput, image quality, and the ability to run on a battery, which, as you just hinted, James, of course, HoloLens, that's something HoloLens does very well. Yeah,
it does. The HoloLens battery life is not that great.
It's good enough for an experience, though.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And to be fair, Intel are not, this is a concept, right? Yep. It's not a... It's not a real thing yet. The thing is, Intel don't really make their own things, though. So
no, that's a good point. Well, they do. They made the NUC, didn't they?
What was that again?
The NUC was the single unit of computing.
Oh, yeah, of course, yeah.
They actually made that had an Intel badge on it. They also make the stick, the compute stick. That's an Intel branded device, isn't it? You can buy those.
Yeah, that's true. But okay, look, they don't really have much experience. I think this is probably a technology demonstrator for their own chips, because as we've discussed, and certainly on the other story, the Pico story, they're using. And I like how the article points out it came out in 2015. The processor
Yeah,
that they're
that's
using.
right.
Intel need to do something to show that they are relevant in this, because ARM is creeping in everywhere now.
Yes.
Intel have to do this. So yeah, well, hey, look, it's really interesting. I'm curious to know, things like the operating system. It's probably Windows, I'm guessing. No, actually, no, it will be some kind of Linux variant, won't it? Yeah, right. It's interesting.
Do you think? I mean, the broader question of whether VR and AR are here to stay. Last year's CES, we didn't know. We were excited. This year's CES, there seems to be, with one exception, which we'll come to in a minute, the presence of VR systems at CES 2017 surprised me. I didn't think it was going to be that strong this year, and it has been much stronger than I thought.
Did you think it was going to go the way of the 3D TV?
I did, a little bit, yeah. I mean, that's the natural cynic in me, which is why we do and enjoy this show, James. But yeah, I did think it was going to be, I wanted it to succeed, but I thought, having used the systems in 2016, I thought there's no flipping way, there's no way this is going to work. You can't be tethered, and, it's just not going to work. And of course, that people are turning up to CES. Normally, with stuff we see at CES appears at the end of the year or possibly the year after. We're looking at a future of VR without wires, and that interests me.
Yeah, okay. Hey, let's just see what happens. Well, thinking of CES, there's a story here in The Guardian by Samuel Gibbs about wireless charging. Now, we've spoken about wireless charging a couple of times on this great show, but there's a company called Energus, which is bringing out its, and this is the greatest name for a product ever, What Up.
What Up, named after James Watt, the Scottish inventor and entrepreneur.
So what they're basically claiming, and they didn't demonstrate this, but they're claiming that they can bring out a wireless charging transmitter that can offer charging at a distance of up to 15 feet or 4.6 meters.
So the opportunity there is to put it in the roof, is it?
Yes, yeah, and basically you can supply wireless charging to an entire room, and basically it can pump out about 700 milliamp hours, which is effectively anything with a micro USB port. So your phone, your game controller, what they're showing in the picture, your wireless headphones, your remote control car. I think they're reaching slightly, but yeah, that's basically it. What they did show was in the demonstrations, wireless charging over a couple of centimeters, and basically, yeah, they're moving.
So hang on, wait a minute. They demonstrated a couple of centimeters, but they
but they're talking about. They're calling it forthcoming. The devices that they are working with their partners on for wireless charging will be able to, and I quote, seamlessly transition from being charged by small contact-based portable transmitters to forthcoming large transmitters that offer this great.
So what? So just to describe the image, there's somebody's living room, and there's a hand controller for a games console, a remote control car, some laptops. Some phones, some speakers, stuff around, the sort of stuff which is a pain to have to plug in and charge. And it's the implication very much is that they are, wherever they lay, they are being charged. Now, is the suggestion here that this What Up wireless system will have a targeting chip in each device and will single it out?
I mean, that's basically what I think. For this to be successful, they have to work with the various manufacturers, and they claim to have signed an undisclosed deal to supply the wireless power system to, and I quote, one of the largest consumer electronic companies in the world. So that's going to be an Apple, a Samsung, an LG, HTC type company. Now, supposedly, there's rumors that they are currently going through the Apple compliance testing, so that's basically where they're thinking. But effectively, what this article is saying is this technology is great, but it's only going to happen if one of the big boys picks it up. So I guess it's kind of a stay tuned.
Well, we've had the
type,
Qi wireless
device.
charging system. I was a big fan of it and user of it myself until I realized the way it works or one of the side effects of the way it works was to create a lot of heat in the back of the phone. And that can't have been good for the battery. So I stopped using them and went back to plugging in because I was concerned that the amount of heat being generated by my phone was not good. Also, another problem with this is it has got the whiff of witchcraft about it. And I just wonder what the consumer acceptance factor would be on a wireless power beamer stuck in your room.
I think they just need to do a bit more work in explaining it to the consumers. But I don't think we're there yet because it sounds like the technology doesn't even
There you
exist.
go. Well, and that is the building blocks for a Techtasm if ever I saw one. I'll tell you what's not a Techtasm, James.
Okay.
Amazon's Alexa Assistant. Engadget reported, this is just an example story, we could have picked any one of 50 stories, but reported that Alexa is even coming to refrigerators. Now, LG last year brought a fridge to CES that ran Windows 10, showing a device that could keep food cold and play Minesweeper. This year, it's taking that concept one step further, introducing a new screen-adorned InstaView door-in-door refrigerator with voice control. And specifically, it will have a full-on Amazon Alexa device. So if you think about it, this fridge is a gigantic Amazon Echo.
So do the Echoes talk to each other, in the sense... Well,
you mean
you've
talk
got
to
one,
each other in terms of setting up a network and knowing that there are other echoes in the house? Yes. So one of the when they launched the Echo Dot, which is the small one, a lot of people got them for Black Friday or for Christmas presents, and found themselves living in multiple Alexa households and would often call out a request to Alexa and it would pick it up on multiple devices and both start yapping out the answer at the same time. They've now fixed that. So clearly, if there are multiple Echo devices in the house, then only one will respond. It works out which one's closer to you. And
You see, I'm not sure about this Alexa thing. I know you've got one, and we've told it jokes and told it to shut up many times. But there was a story a couple of weeks ago. I don't have the link for it, whereby law enforcement were demanding from Amazon the recording of a particular Alexa because it was a witness to a robbery or a murder or some kind of crime. I know I'm going to sound like an old fuddy-duddy, great English word. I don't know if I like the idea of it listening to me all the time.
So while the world is going Alexa crazy, this commentator is not Alexa crazy. It's got a little bit of personality programmed into it, but it's just not very good. I mean, certainly it can understand what you said, and it's got a beautiful synthesized voice. That's fantastic. What it doesn't have is the knowledge graph behind it, but that was what CES 2017 was all about. This was about extending the Amazon Echo ecosystem, they expected 30 or 40, and they got 150 different announcements of Amazon Echo compatibility. Is it the new OS? I don't know. Is this the way operating systems are going? I mean, I don't even know what OS it runs. It doesn't matter. It's just that
it says Fire OS. So
well, maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. Who knows? But it's irrelevant. The point is, it's got one interface and a speaker. You speak to it and it speaks back, and that's it. That's not bad. Is this the way things are going?
Oh, it's interesting. I wonder if you can download the OS. I suppose you need to be one of their partners, won't you, or something?
Well, at the moment, it's a service provided by Amazon on approved devices. Clearly, they have authorized or licensed LG to use it in this fridge. Therefore, they have a licensing model. It's not like Apple. They don't have to make the hardware themselves. And certainly when it comes to connectivity, like a lot of the Amazon company, They're very open. They've got open APIs, well published and supported by the community, well documented. The things are looking bright, and they've certainly got that first mover advantage over the only other player, I think, in this field with a comparable product, which is the Google Home.
Look, it's interesting. I think the jury's still out, though, on the whole Alexa thing. Everyone's going crazy over it because it's the in thing, but I don't know. It's not for me.
Okay.
Okay, well, moving on to a really kind of weird story, really. CES, Adam Gabbat in The Guardian, talking about Faraday Future's FF91. Now, we've never spoken about Faraday Future, I don't think, on this show, but I don't know if you're aware of them. They are a brand new electric vehicle company that is very, very ambitious, very boisterous, talking about their, and I quote, production car, which is not yet in production, and about how it has a faster 0 to 60 than the Tesla Model S, 2.39 seconds over 2.5, the equivalent of 1,050 brake horsepower. They're building a $1 billion factory, and it'll have all these crazy features, like it will learn who you are, it will have a driverless valet where the car can park itself, blah, 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 blah. Lots of exciting things going on there. The problem with Faraday Future, though, and the reason they're normally in the news, is because their $1 billion factory, they didn't pay the construction company, so they've down tools. The car itself and the unveiling had quite a few issues, which they've removed from the videos that they posted live. The CEO has left, several executives have left, and it looks like the parent company's dried up the money. So, I mean, look, this is Techtasm all over there, isn't it?
Well, what I liked about the Faraday Future were some of the innovations, the driverless ability, the ability to park itself completely autonomously. The spin-up LiDAR on the front was very interesting. So a lot of these driving cars have got LiDAR systems which require these sort of things sticking out of the roof, and they're a bit ungainly. Faraday Future solved this problem by having a circular pop-up LiDAR detector on the front of the car where the bonnet is. So, it looked like it had some innovations. What I didn't like were its gigantic size. I mean, it's the size of a transit van. It's got a huge range of 350 miles. Now, in order to get that range with current lithium-ion battery technology, will require, a ton of batteries. I mean, literally 1,000 kilograms of batteries. I'd be surprised if it's less in order to get that range. And actually, you think it just had the whiff of something that wanted to be faster and bigger and better in every technical way, without really having a philosophy that was any better than it's got to be bigger and faster. And so it left me feeling a bit dry. Also, wasn't there some kind of scheme where you could sign up to get one by putting $5,000 down?
Yeah, and supposedly they've had over 60,000 pre-orders of people who've put in $5,000, which, quick maths, that's $300 million. Which is, I mean, that's quite impressive, because I'm sure investors would like the fact that they've now all of a sudden got.
Well, as a Kickstarter pitch, which is what it was, it's clearly, if those figures are correct, then they're off and running, aren't they? I just didn't like it. I mean, I can see how it would appeal to Americans.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the problem, because the Chinese company that's behind it, I can't remember the name of them.
Echo.
Echo. Yeah, they've been supposedly siphoning off a couple of their employees onto the Chinese version of this car. So, what do you think? Is this Techtasm, this Faraday Future FF91?
Yes, I think it is. There's too much stuff going on behind the scenes for it to be anything else. As you said, with the talent being leached off in various different directions, it has the whiff of a last gasp, desperate attempt to get some funding in. I'm going to call it. I don't think this one's going to see the light of day. I think it's got Techtasm written all over it.
Agreed. Let's move on.
Can I do you a final story, James? Is that all right?
Yeah,
I've got one more. I know we've been going a long time, but this tickled me. And The Guardian reported about a new way to punish young cyber criminals is to make them wear a Wi-Fi jammer. Now, Chief Superintendent Gavin Thomas, who's the president of the Police Superintendents Association of England and Wales, suggested in an interview that Wi-Fi jammers, which are devices worn on the ankle or wrist to block the internet, could serve as a smarter punishment for cyber crimes than prison. And what he said is, we've got to stop using 19th century punishments to deal with 21st century crimes. What do you think, James?
I love this story because it says further down there's two reasons why this won't work. The first is they're illegal, and the second, they wouldn't work. And that's
well,
brilliant.
The first one you could get around that by making it legal, but actually, if it won't work, it won't work.
Yeah, I mean, because the thing with Wi-Fi is there's 15, 16 bands. Actually, there's probably more now that AC is out. Actually, also, if you're out in the street, you don't have Wi-Fi anyway, you've got 4G or 3G. You can't block 3G or 4G because it'll piss off the person next to you. Good luck with that.
Yeah, it's one of those things said by a politician, or in this case, a senior police officer, which pays no heed to technology whatsoever, therefore, by definition, makes it a techtasm. I like the thinking, though. I thought it was intriguing because actually, I always say if I ask for my children's phone or device or screen, I say turn your laptop off, and what they're hearing is cut my right arm off or gouge my eyes out with a spoon, because actually screen time is the most important thing to a young person. And cyber criminals, the most important thing is being online. And, as he said, if we could find a way to make this work, I think this is really clever. Then we wouldn't have to lock people up. Yeah,
this is true. Isn't there an issue, though, in the sense that isn't like broadband now a human right?
Well, now you're getting into an area of philosophy for which we don't have time to, James, today, but a good question, as always. A little bit longer than usual, but that's it for this week. Find us at facebook.com/Techtasm. Subscribe in the usual places and contact us at feedback@techtasm.com. We record most weeks at about 9 p.m, so watch out for our next episode. This is me, Sir Robin Yellow.
Me, Mr. James Woodall.
Asking the question, is it real or is it just a Techtasm?